The world won't understand you. Hey, but it's okay. Said the world won't understand you, 'cause I made you in my own way. Said the world won't understand you, 'cause I made you different.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 44 of In a Good Way podcast. Today, I have a really special guest, Dr. Roger Geitzen, who is also a neurologist. Thank you for being here and welcome.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So as I told Dr. Geitzen, the way I found him was because I was going through a lot of pain, and I went to the doctor, right? They did x-rays. I thought it was the sciatic nerve, and they assured me it wasn't. The chiropractor said the same, but yet here I was with this pain, right? And so I looked it up, spiritual reasons for having, and your article literally said how pain in your buttocks are led to spiritual healing, or what was it?
Yeah. That's like the title of it. Buttocks pain leading to spiritual healing, something like that.
Exactly. And so that's how I found you, and I just started reading away, and it, like I told you, it gave me hope that there was light at the end of the tunnel, because I felt from the beginning it had to do with something spiritual. I couldn't explain it. That's just what I guess my soul was telling me, or my higher
Intuition.
self, or yes,
Yep.
exactly, the intuition. So yeah, I'll stop talking so people can listen to your story. Please, just, I guess, with as much detail. And also, have you always been connected spiritually, or were you more, being a doctor, did you rely more on the science and didn't really believe in all that before this?
So I have a couple questions for you, but I'll answer that question first.
Okay.
And so I was not, that's funny. The spiritual, like, I think as a kid, I had spiritual connections that I didn't recognize as such.
Mhm.
And it was just nothing, no special skills or anything. It's just a way to connect with nature, I guess I would say.
Oh.
I lived in a small town. I had a lot of freedom, and I would go and catch frogs and go out in the fields and spend a lot of time on my own as a little kid. Our home was like one of the last homes on the edge of the city, so I had access to nature.
Oh, wow.
And when I look back at my childhood, it was really a really blessed childhood. And I can remember a lot of times just spending hours sitting there along ponds and riding my bike down the trails and stuff, and really being at peace. And as I got older and life got busier, that would call me back. Like during high school, I remember thinking I need to get camping or something. And when things got really stressful, and I go camp and I come back recharge. And then in college, it was like even more intense. I needed to go like backpacking trips where it was just totally desolate. And, you go spend a few nights or a week away from everybody, or with just a couple friends. And when I look back, I can see there was some spiritual connection that was happening there. There was something important, but I never really recognized it as such. And then it came back to the surface to me after I went down the wrong path for a while. I guess I'll just put it that way. Like
Oh.
I then I got kind of focused on my dream, which was more or less the American dream, like a big home. I had a good paying job. I had a wife and kids and a dog, and lived in a beautiful resort town, and like had all that stuff. And when the last goal was achieved and the dust started to settle, I became aware of the fact that I wasn't really happy and I couldn't enjoy the things I had. I was very restless. My mind was always jumping. I was always there tasks that needed to be done, and I was being pulled in a lot of ways. And I won't go into the whole story right now, but that led to sort of a realization that something was missing, and then a search, and then a discovery. I'll put it that way.
Oh, wow. I don't know.
So
Thank you. Go ahead.
the question I had for you is, I wondered, were you already familiar with Dr. Sarno's work, who is the doctor that inspired a lot of my understanding about chronic pain and the emotional root causes, or no?
No. actually.
Okay. Okay, most people who write to me about chronic pain, they know of his work and they come to me through I'm listed on a couple reference sites about as a essentially a provider or a counselor who can help counsel people who have chronic pain
Wow.
and recognize that suppressed emotions are the root cause.
Ah,
So I was thinking you were one of them, and I more or less teach what he taught, but I add a spiritual element just because of some my personal experiences and realizations that things go a little deeper than he thought, and then and I try to share any experiences I have, which is what led to that one article I posted
oh, okay.
about personal experience where I had sciatic type pain that was really intense, and yeah,
Wow.
okay,
Okay. No, no, no. Yeah, because when I was going through it, someone just referred me to Louise Hay. Is that her name?
yeah, Louise Hayes,
Louise Hayes. And so I did
yeah,
buy a book, but I read it for a while, and I think it did help, right? Because there was a point where the pain was so bad. It's almost like, I hate to say it that way, but it's like you don't even want to be alive from the pain at night, right? I couldn't sleep.
uh-huh.
It was just like a brutal pain, right? So, and then the pills that they were giving me weren't making me feel good. I think
Uh-huh.
they were making me almost feel like depressed, or it just wasn't having a good reaction. They gave me different pills that still didn't work. So I just I stopped taking the pill. So I was kind of, and now it's tolerable, but it's still not completely gone. So, I'm sure during your story, you'll probably bring light as to a little more, I guess things that I could do to.
Yeah. Are you okay sharing some personal details about like testing you had and stuff? It might help me know whether so did you have like scans of your back and
They just did the x-rays. They did the
uh-huh,
x-rays. They made me do, physical tests that said, well, no, it's not your sciatic nerve, because, you wouldn't even be able to move in this way or that. Uh,
uh-huh, uh-huh.
and then the chiropractor, I had to pay out of pocket because the doctor was being difficult. He didn't
Yeah.
want to, because I told them, well, people have told me they went to acupuncture. People have told me they did the chiropractor. Everything he was shooting down. Oh, let's try this. And I told him, well, I've came to you since months ago. You gave me pills. I don't want a Band-Aid anymore. And he got really offended by it. So
Yeah, right.
yes, so I didn't know how else to put it into words. I just meant, like, I'm not trying to just suppress the pain. I feel almost crippled by it, right? Like I stopped working for months and months, and then I had to get back to working, just a job here and there.
Uh-huh.
Not what I was doing full time. So, it's been obviously tough. And so yeah, that's what happened. I even paid for acupuncture out of pocket. I mean, I liked it, but I did it. It still didn't do,
You're
like,
still hurting. Yeah.
exactly.
And so x-rays are like the test that you had of your back and they were looked okay.
Well, they said there were like two discs that were a little compressed, but it shouldn't be causing all this pain, or that maybe
Yeah.
it was some kind of neurological pain, but it wasn't that sciatic nerve. It wasn't the sciatic nerve. That's what.
And how long has this been going on for roughly?
Since December.
And you have good strength in your legs, and have you lost sensation anywhere in your legs or?
No, I mean, it's just when if I go a couple of days or something without stretching and doing all these sciatic nerve stretches and all this and that, or I even notice maybe if I'm not eating right. Maybe if I'm not eating right, all of a sudden it's like the pain will go all the way, maybe to the bottom of the foot, all the way to the top of, like, even up here, where it feels weird. It feels like there's something, like, in
Yeah.
my nerves. So,
Where is it most like intense? Does it start?
oh, the butt, like right below the butt.
Okay.
That's the ground zero right there, right below the butt. Yeah.
And it goes down into the leg sometimes.
Yes, and then it's even on the left side as well. But it
Yeah.
started on the right side, so it went from the right to then the left, and then the back. Actually, when it first started, it was the back, and
Yeah.
then well, basically this. I was doing like Uber delivery, right? Because my work had slowed down, so I started doing Uber Eats. And so I was constantly that. I figured it was the motion of pushing the gas, pushing the brake, pushing the gas, pushing the brake. I was working 12 hours a day because I would get bored and you turn on the little app and it sends you to work. So I was doing that, but I don't think in all that time I was happy too, right? So I was driving very like, I don't think I was ever really in a good mood doing it. I think all that was affecting me in some way for some reason.
Okay. And there was no trauma, no injury or anything like that. It just kind of came on and it's got intense and it's moved around a little bit.
I mean, I was already feeling the pain, but I would go on mountain bike rides, you know, when I had some free time, and I fell off my bike once and I landed. I was like on one of the steepest hills I've ever been on, and I flew off my bike and landed head first. I had the helmet on and everything. I told the doctor that, and they didn't even do any extra x-rays because of that. I figured the x-ray they did must have covered that, but like they really paid it no mind. So
That happened before your pain started or after?
no, the pain was already there.
Yeah, okay.
It might have helped them get a little, because then I started having pain up here, but then eventually it went away. So
Okay. Well, yeah, so we're kind of doing like one of my normal sessions here. And most folks come to me and they've already had an MRI scan of their back too. And what we know from research is like 60% of healthy, normal people, middle-aged people have abnormalities on their scan. They'll have some bulging discs, sometimes herniated discs. You know how the spine looks like. You got the two bones and then like this rubbery thing in the middle, and narrowing around nerves. I mean, this is something you can find in healthy people who have no pain 60% of the time.
wow.
So it's very challenging as a specialist to know when a person has pain with certainty whether the symptoms relate to the abnormality or not.
Oh, wow.
But the good news is, and so a lot of people, they schedule a session with me to get an evaluation. And usually my goal is to determine what's the likelihood the pain is directly related to the imaging findings. And so a lot of times it's not. You know, they'll have narrowing on the right side, their symptoms are on the left, their problems are high in the back, their symptoms are low in the back. But every once in a while I get somebody who they have symptoms that are in a place that could be related to the pinched nerve we're seeing on the scan. Even then, and then their question is, do I have to have surgery essentially, or can I do this emotional work, emotional balancing work? And the answer is most of the time, almost always, is you can do the work, because when it comes to surgeries for the back, they're hit or miss. It's different than other surgeries, like people who have bad hip arthritis. It's like 90% effective. It works. You know, there's certain surgeries for certain problems. You got a broken bone, you know, and it's not in alignment. The surgery works. You get function back. The pain is going to resolve. But when it comes to the low back, the surgeries are totally hit or miss. And when they've done studies with people who don't have surgery, who have sciatic symptoms, even if they have a foot drop, the end result is the same amount of people in each category, those who take the surgery and those who don't, have pain-free, and or they get function back in their ankle. I think the surgery in the one benefit is that they're more likely to get pain-free quicker. But so if I have clients who call me and they really don't want the surgery, you know, as long as there's not a threat of a spinal cord injury or something more serious, you know, a destructive tumor in their spine, then I give them permission to not do surgery. And I know that whether or not you do this work of Dr. Sarno's, a lot of people get better, you know. And we don't have an MRI for you, but I'm going to say you don't need one. And I'm going to say you don't need a surgery if you really want to use this experience to make positive change in your life, because all suffering, all pain happens for a deeper purpose, and never call it to you. But when it comes, there's a way to use it to dissolve ego or to create more space, you know, spiritually. And so that's my intention, is to emphasize that message to people and share some of the ways that I've been able to do that with them in hopes that they can have success too. But knowing that there's people, we all have our paths, and some people have different journeys and won't use the stuff that helped me. But anyway, I think it's still, like you say, it at least gives you hope to know if somebody had similar symptoms.
Mm.
They did stuff to really work at getting to the root cause. It got better, and then they went along, you know, they're on their way.
No, absolutely. And if you don't mind, because I remember reading about how you said that maybe some of your family, I don't know if they were skeptical about what you were saying, because for you, it was something deeper, right? You thought it was something that wasn't just the regular, normal physical pain, and you started searching, right? And you did yoga as well, and all
Yeah.
this.
I mean, I treat all problems as if there's a spiritual or emotional root cause. So my first and always inclination is to go within, you know, to ask for guidance, to try to connect with God, and try to learn if there's a message, and or is the message just is the pain sometimes, and just to learn to embrace and hold it. And the last thing I usually do is go to a doctor.
Wow.
And this time, that if you want me to tell that story, I can tell that story now. Um,
Absolutely. Yes, please.
yeah, I think that was like 2017 or 18 when it happened. I probably mentioned it in the blog post that I wrote, but I had noticed, I had, in hindsight, the whole episode was about a 3-month ordeal, and I had no idea how long it was going to take
Mm.
or what was going to happen. It was completely a mystery to me what was going to happen next. And what I remember noticing is very slowly some symptoms started. And if there's any discrepancy on what I say and what my blog says, the blog is right, because now it's been
Okay.
like 5 years. But and I haven't read my own article in a few years, but I can remember just some mild symptoms like stiffness in the butt and maybe a little bit of the low back. And at first, I could see it when I was walking and doing yoga, and it was just and during stretches a little bit difficult, but I was more or less functioning normal. And it increased over a few weeks to the point where it became more intense. And I want to say right around a month into it, it started to get like impossible to ignore. And it started to kind of reach its maximum. And at one point, I can remember it was so bad that I felt like an atomic bomb had gone off in my leg. I mean, just so much energy with it and so much discomfort. And it was worse if I was sitting, but it was kind of like there was no way to get away from it. And the more I tried to straighten up when I walked, the worse it got. But even resting in any position, there was a tremendous amount of discomfort and pain. And the best position was for me to lie in a fetal position on one side. Maybe it was on the side that hurt, and
Mm.
then like and then like partially extend my leg. And I had this like, you know, little position I could get into, and I usually could fall asleep for like 2 or 3 hours at night if I did that.
Mm.
But yeah, I was hardly sleeping. I usually do a long meditation every day called Kriya Pranayama,
Mm.
pranayama yoga type meditation. And it was so crappy. I mean, there was just like, I was sitting through the motions, but I didn't feel like I was doing anything. I was just sitting there suffering essentially.
Wow.
And I can remember it was coming up to a point where every month I do a water fast for 3 days
Mm.
consecutively. And it's always a little bit challenging to not eat, you know, but there's always benefits too. Like it's really good for my health, and I can see it gives me energy. And that was coming up, and I was totally dreading it. I was like, oh man, I'm like already a mess, and I do not want to do that. And but part of me knew that, you know, maybe that's going to be helpful. And while this all was going on, I didn't go to the doctor. I didn't take pain pills. I did as much as I could without being torturous to my body. Every day I would go for a walk where I was like crippled, but still sort of making myself get out, get fresh air, get around the trees. And the symptoms would get a little better as I went through the walk. So I more or less was, and mentally I was observing thoughts that were fear-based, or oh, you're going to be crippled, or things like this, or I'm a victim, sort of thoughts coming from the negative or dark
Mm.
area. And I was just letting those go, and not giving them more attention than necessary, and then shifting back towards, this is a spiritual cleanse,
Mm.
and I've had spiritual cleanse before, and boy, this is a big one. I wonder what sort of positive changes are going to happen when it's over. And I kind of remind myself of that. So I was doing like mental and physical work to carry on, and not give too much mental energy to the process, or the pain.
Oh.
And then, okay, so then I did the 3-day water fast, and it was rough. The symptoms got even worse.
Ooh.
But on the third day, there was like an opening inside, and it's a little hard for me to describe this, but I know when I have suffering, whether it's emotional or physical, that I've kind of turned the corner when when there's like an inner breathing space inside, when I can be, part of my body can relax and
Mm.
my mind can relax, even though I'm engaged with the pain or the suffering.
Mm.
By engaged, I mean we can disengage sometimes by distracting ourselves or talking to people or busy, busy, busy. But I mean, at those, every day, part of my lifestyle, there's a time where I sit and I like open for God, I guess I could say, which is um, open for an energetic presence, a loving energetic presence to be with me, and it presents in a way that I recognize, where my thoughts will slow down and my shoulders relax and my breathing gets relaxed. And I just feel warm and cozy and at home wherever I happen to be. And so um, for that first month, I could have struggled to get to that point. I mean, it wasn't really happening because of all the pain. But during this water fast, I got to a point where that happened. I could feel like I could feel myself relax inside. Maybe it's like my energetic body or my spiritual body kind of slipped fully into my body, and I knew that I was like so happy, because I was like, oh, this is the beginning of the end of the pain. And I knew it, because I knew like that dissolves that energy blockage that's in my butt. So then every day I just made sure I spent some time and I could get back to that state of being. And,
Mm.
and what was fascinating is actually the physical symptoms got worse.
Oh, wow.
So I had like this extreme confidence that like I'm through the worst of it, things are getting better. But you know what? My posture was like this. I could not stand up at all. I mean, literally, like the hip joint and the butt was locked, and I was walking around, still seeing patients in the hospital, cooking for my kids, doing all my normal stuff. And I was looking like a really old guy that was like couldn't even, stand up. And as soon as I can get to a chair, I'd sit down and be like, And by this point, everybody's noticing the problem. They're like, Raj, what's going on? You've got to get that checked out. There's something seriously going on. And I'm like, dude, it's getting better. And they're like, no, it's not getting better. It's getting worse. Anyway, I'm like, it's getting better. You just not physically yet. And I was like, just be patient. And at that point, it was like harder to deal with people than it was with my own symptoms, because I had to, how do you explain to people you're going through a spiritual cleanse? I mean, even my own, I'm come from a family of doctors and stuff, and
Mm.
they know about my spirituality and stuff. But even then, they would never apply it in a situation like that where you're about ready to be handicapped.
Wow.
And so they didn't have a way to they didn't have a way to connect with what I was doing and why. But I just assured them that I was, everything was okay and things would be all right. And I didn't really, I hadn't had any tests, so they're like, well, what's going on? You don't know, and when's it going to be gone? Of course I don't know, but I know it's getting better. So okay. And then it was shortly after that, when the physical symptoms got really worse, my brother offered to do a manipulation on me. He's trained as an osteopathic physician. And up until that point, I was really trying to just me and God, do it on my own, and make sure that I don't interfere with the healing process that's happening. But at that point, I had this intuition, like, okay, accept some help. So he did a couple of manipulations and in the area, similar to what a chiropractor might do. But they have a different they have a different method of treatments. And I noticed this, a small but real improvement, and lasted for a few days. And at that point, I was like, maybe I should be seeking out other help. So I went and at this point, mind you, I really felt like things were going to get better anyway. But I went to a local acupuncturist who did like 5 treatments over a course of 10 days. And I noticed things improved. And actually, an odd thing would happen with those sessions. When I'd get done with the sessions, the muscles would contract, and I would be even tighter for 20 minutes, an hour or something. Like, it would cause like the blockage to get worse in that part of my body, and then it would open more throughout the day. And then I get a treatment, and again, and it's just kind of this back and forth was happening. But I noticed I was getting better. And I think that was the last treatment, any sort of treatment that I did, other than my normal lifestyle, which is like a 3-hour continuous meditation every day, the monthly fasting. I was doing yoga stretches, and I was doing like forest bathing, where you'd walk around the trees and just soak up the kind of like a mindful walk, you know.
Mm.
And then it did go away. So, and then by like 2 months into this, I could start to see my posture was getting better. I could walk a little bit more freely. And then by 3 months, I can remember looking and writing in my journal. I was like, oh my gosh, it's like this never even happened. I can't
Wow.
even, imagine. And things still came and went for a little bit after that, but then it was gone. So, and then, as you probably know from the blog, there were some positive changes that spontaneously occurred in my life. At that point, I had sort of a fractured life related to divorce. I had kids in one place with mom, and I had a little rental down there, but my job was in another place, and I was doing humanitarian work in Haiti.
Oh.
And so I had like this triangle, and it was complicated and expensive to keep these 3 lives up. And it was there was a lot of tension still in the relationship with my ex.
Oh.
And she suddenly felt safer around me immediately after that, and suddenly realized that she wanted to move back to the countryside from the city in Michigan.
Mm.
And she came back with my kids to the small town where I was living, and got a place. And suddenly I could get rid of this rental. So I freed up money that I was spending. There was a lot of time devoted to travel and being in that area to be with my kids. Now they were just in the same town with me.
Mm.
So it freed up time and energy. I got to see my kids more frequently. And I mean, it's hard to really express, but that for me was like this massive positive change in life that allowed me to have a little bit more time and energy for myself and for my spiritual practices, and to have a closer relationship with my kids.
Wow.
And a lot of positive changes have occurred as a result of that. So I felt that, and I've read Louise Hay's. She's like a great first book to read. I read You Can Heal Your Life, and I've watched her movie on that. And she makes a point that different parts of the body are often symbolic of different struggles that you might be going through. And of course, like the pelvic and the hip area and the low back, that's all related to sexuality.
Mm.
And so, I feel that it was true for me, because there was this healing in sexuality relationship, and sexuality not necessarily meaning romantic partner, but just like the quality of your relationship with the opposite sex,
That
like
makes
your relationship
perfect
with
sense.
your mom, your
Yeah, yeah.
dad. Yeah.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, so I felt that probably was, I mean, this is my assessment, that probably was an energetic blockage in that part of the body relating to something that needed to be healed in my sexuality. And there was this healing, and then there was this improved quality of relationships that allowed me to be, have better life experiences as a result of it. And there may have been a physical, if I'd gone to the doctor and got a whole bunch of scans, there might have been a physical correlate to it. I do believe that there can be, but And I do believe that sometimes you need to have a surgery like we talked about, or modern medicine has some tools. Um, but I just like to make sure that I give chance for any internal process or transformation to occur before jumping to anything conventional medicine, you know.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Wow. Oh, thank you for sharing that. And since it hasn't returned now, or you haven't had any other struggle since that incident, or
That problem I've never had again. Now I have a new problem that's totally changed my my sight. So my actually up until that point I really had doubts that surgeries were ever needed,
mm,
because I'll tell you, you can take any problem that people come to you with. Oh, I got rotator cuff syndrome, or I got plantar fasciitis, which is like pain in your foot, or I've got, you name it, knee arthritis. And then you can take the, okay, I'll tell them what is the objective evidence, and they'll send me MRI result.
mm,
And then I'll go online in these research journals and I'll search for that finding. Okay, tough rotator cuff tear, and I'll search what's the incidence of asymptomatic people with rotator cuff tear, which in plain old English means how often you see this in people who don't have any problems. And
uh,
I'll tell you, for every single one you look at, you can find that they happen in normal people. So do those findings actually correlate with pain?
mm,
And the answer is no, they don't. I mean, they don't. They're almost for anything you can have, you can find that people will have the same imaging finding and have no pain.
wow.
So somehow I think it's all connected. And so anyway, I had kind of at this point around the time where I had that experience, had this perspective that really everything is spiritual and emotional based, and surgeries aren't needed for anything.
Mm,
And then life taught me a different. That's not quite true. So about 3.5, I think it's been, yeah, it's about 3.5 years ago, I started getting symptoms in my right hip and thigh that I would notice when I was doing yoga, or if I was going for a little jog and I have just a little stiffness. It started kind of like that other thing did, but much more insidious, which means
mm,
slow and hard to notice. And but over the course of like a year, it was to the point where I had to walk different. Never
mm.
had a tremendous amount of pain. I did have some pain, but it was like more like stiffness, and I just couldn't move my hip
Oh,
correctly. I'm young. I'm in my mid 40s at this point.
mm,
And then it progressed to the point where I was having a difficult time getting up and down hills and stuff. And when I go on hikes in Haiti, people could see I was like limping at the end of them. But then after a few days, I'd be okay. Now, fast forward to like that last summer and the end of last year, it was really getting noticeable. Like almost every time I walk, I had to kind of turn my right leg out to walk without it catching.
mm,
And I started to get some pain radiating down into the knee sometimes. So, and then I was like struggling with stairs, going up and down stairs, and to get my shoe off, I'd have to like take my leg and put it up onto my other leg. To get
oh,
in the
wow.
car, I have to like kind of grab the knee of my right leg and swing it in. I was losing muscle mass in my right quad.
Um,
So I treated it like I did with this buttocks pain, which is like, I'm going to give this time to allow it to express itself and see there's something really special here. You know, this is a big one. It's not going away easy.
oh, wow.
In hindsight, though, there wasn't that much pain. You'd sit down, and you wouldn't even know the problem was there. Even when I was walking, the pain was never more than moderate, you know, but it was substantially disrupting um, my functioning. And it was getting to the point this early midwinter where I couldn't go up steps without having to like always lead with my left foot. I couldn't just take a full stride with the right leg. There wasn't the power, and I just couldn't. The leg didn't work.
Mm,
So I finally got an X-ray, and I was shocked to find out I have severe advanced arthritis in my right hip, and nothing in the left. So this is probably, and then I started researching, you know, like, can people have severe arthritis and not have pain? And the answer is yes,
oh, wow.
but but almost always do have a change in their walking.
Mm.
And when they get the surgery, they almost always can walk normal again. I haven't had a surgery yet. I'm still within a week of getting that x-ray. I was really asking for guidance and are there any natural treatments that I can do for this other than the mind body stuff. And
Mhm.
I've started a very elaborate treatment regimen with homeopathic medicines, anti-inflammatory herbs. I'm using like minerals and vitamins and boron, filtered water, and then all from a friend who I trust a lot, who's a naturopath. And then I said, it really though, I would like a testimony, and I couldn't find any good testimonies online of somebody with severe arthritis that had a resolution in symptoms. And it just happened to be like a day, or it was like a week after I got the x-ray. It was a few days after really wanting a testimony that I got one. And
Oh,
it
wow.
turned out it's from a friend I know who lives in Canada, who called me for a totally separate reason, talking about a mutual project that we're involved in. And it came up during the conversation that he previously had his left hip total hip replacement done, and over the last 2 years, his right hip had been accelerating to the point where he couldn't walk more than 50 feet. He had to take a bicycle. He was all the same stuff that I was having. They had an x-ray that showed that his arthritis had quickly progressed,
Mm.
but he couldn't get surgery quickly because Canada, it was a pandemic and they have limited access, you know. Um, Long story short is he found himself doing cold water bathing in the Pacific Ocean, just because the ocean was like calling him in. And every day he was going and sitting for like 5 minutes or a little bit longer in this like, you know, negative, less than 60-degree temperature water, not negative temperatures. And after doing that for 2.5 months, his leg symptoms went away.
Wow.
Uh, so this was right around Christmas time, 22. So just whatever, 6 months ago. Um, and and ultimately he canceled his surgery because it's he's still continuing to function well. Turns out his arthritis was slightly milder than what mine shows, at least per the radiologist report. But um, you're probably not surprised to know that I'm doing cold water bathing now too.
I was about to ask that. So, wow. Okay. So you started doing that as well. Does it seem to be helping? Or are you noticing?
It's too early to say. Like I haven't had 2.5 months. If I have to wait 2.5 months, I haven't been there yet. I started it in early April, but then I had to take a month off because of a trip to Haiti, and there was no way to do cold water bathing there. And then I just started it again since I returned, which it's been about 2.5 weeks. And
Oh,
I'm averaging about every other day doing a dunk in cold water for about 7 minutes.
wow. Yeah. No.
So
And you just reminded me, like, when I did start having pains, I also had horrible knee pain. My knees were just like they felt very almost like they were locked, like I couldn't even straighten them fully. And eventually, but I think I just attacked it with so many things that I didn't really know exactly which one worked because
yeah,
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 But I
but
did
they got
order.
better.
But I'm sorry, go ahead.
They got better though.
Yes, yes. So the knee, I completely forget that I really don't feel any knee pain anymore. Every once in a while, I might creep back, but I did even find this thing because, like you said, I was kind of asking for guidance, and this thing popped out at me, and I was skeptical at first, but I thought about it, like, okay, it popped out at me, like maybe that's a sign. Let me just do it. And it was something Heal and Soothe. I don't know if you've heard of Heal and Soothe. It's supposed to be natural, and
Okay. No, I don't know that.
yeah, it's some pills that it has, like, the anti-inflammatory, like turmeric and other ingredients, but it's supposed to be all natural. And they say a lot of the pains has to do with, is it fibrins, I don't know if it's fibrin, some kind of thing that builds in your knees that
Okay.
that the body just produces too much, and it starts getting stored there, and that causes a lot of these pains. So I took the
Okay.
whole bottle, and I mean, I don't know if that's what did it. I also was taking other things, so it was just,
Yeah, yeah.
but it could have been that.
there's one resource that I want to kind of give a shout out, and I don't know if somebody else watching this might benefit from it, but it's a book called The Way Out,
Oh, yeah.
and it's written by Alan Gordon, who I've met once. I don't think he would probably remember me. Um, and it's based on this guy, Dr. Sarno's work, but I feel that he's refined it and gotten more to the important essence of the work that needs to be done.
Mm,
And it highlights in the book a research study he did with a group of people with back pain, and they divided them into, normal treatment and then the mind body approach that he used.
mhm.
And they also did functional MRI scans of the brains of these two people. I don't know if you know what a functional MRI is. Like a normal MRI just shows the structure of a brain. It's like a picture.
Mhm.
But a functional MRI shows which parts of the brain are active. So in a sense, it's a little bit like looking at a video.
Okay, yes, I see.
Okay. Normal MRI, you can't tell what part of the brain is lighting up.
Mm,
Um, and that's not, the whole brain's not always lit up at one time. It's little areas, kind of like Christmas tree lights, and what's interesting is they've started to develop, people with chronic pain have a pattern of brain activity that
oh,
now they can model and recognize with their computer software. Like if it looks like this person probably has chronic pain, and it turns out that's more predictive than any of the uh, torn rotator cuff or bulging disc or any of these other imaging studies. If a person's fMRI, their functional MRI, shows the pain pattern, they're more likely to have chronic pain. And so what his theory is that the pain people feel it's occurring at the level of the brain. It's like a learned phenomenon, and
mm,
it gets conditioned or learned because of fear of the symptoms. The more you reject or push, it's like your inner relationship with your symptoms
oh,
determines whether so if somebody has a structural cause of pain, physical cause of pain, that normally would have gone away in a week or two, like most pain does,
mm,
but it becomes long term, then I think his hypothesis would be that most of the time that's because it's no longer in the body, it's in the brain, and it
wow.
gets learned because of your relationship with the fear, with the pain, and if there's an element of fear in that relationship, it causes it to get cemented in the brain. I'm paraphrasing in a massive way, but this is basically what I'd say the book says, and then he teaches you strategies to relate in a more loving way with your body and with your pain. And it little by little unlearns the brain's pattern of activity, and the pain can go away. And when they did their program in these group of back pain patients, they found that the patients in their that resolved that their MRI scans also changed to a healthy pattern.
Wow.
And what's fascinating, most back pain, what's fascinating is how successful his study was. So most studies where they have back pain, they try a new medicine or a new treatment. They don't even use as a measure of success pain resolution,
Mm,
which would be like a score of 1 or 2 or less, like 0 to 2. Most of them don't even, that's not even their goal. Their goal is just to be noticeably better than the other guy's treatment. So instead of an 8, you go to a 6, or instead of a 7, you go to a 5. But nobody expects to have pain resolution. And when he created this study with his statistician, he said, I want, our goal is pain resolution. He's like, oh, you can't do that. Nobody does that. And they
oh, wow.
set that as their objective. And they had like 2/3 of the patients in their group were successful with that goal. 2/3 had two or less on the pain scale, and they checked them later, like 6 or 12 months later, and it was durable. They didn't just go back and have pain again. So
Wow. No, that's amazing.
so it's a cool book. I feel like a lot of us nowadays need something science based. We live in a physical world. We need like a explanation, and I feel this is maybe the single best resource to provide that. But what it misses is the spiritual level,
Mm,
and I feel that it's important to recognize that all pain and suffering has a deeper purpose, and that it is in essence a attempted cleanse on the spiritual level if we don't interfere with it.
Mm.
And books that had helped me with understanding the spiritual level with the mind body would be like Eckhart Tolle's Power of Now. Louise Hay's book was helpful. It has some useful aspects in it. And then there's a sort of like an ebook that has been the most influential spiritual teaching I've ever read. It's called The Spiritual Treasures Final Edition.
Mm.
And that also would be helpful to study for people who wanted to understand the spiritual level of suffering and what to do to transform it.
Oh, wow. Okay. No, I'm gonna look that one up for sure. No, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and oddly enough, I think when I was younger, I was able to pinpoint certain pains, and I would address them, and they would disappear. And then I think somewhere I got disconnected from that, and now I guess I've had a harder time. But when I was younger, I guess I understood about the chakras, or at some point something told me to look up the chakras, and I started looking it up, and I was like, okay, if I'm feeling pain here, normally it has to do with this chakra being out of balance. So I would kind of focus on that, and then the pain would go away. So that's when I first saw, oh, this is real. There's something here. And then I guess for me, it was more as I got older, I started wanting more of a physical explanation as opposed to being younger and more open-minded for some reason. So that was interesting. So, oh no. And so as of right now, are you still, you mostly help one-on-one then, or do you try to spread this knowledge like to a larger audience?
Mostly I do one-on-one for this work. I mean, I share things like the online, I share success stories that I've had. So people may read and I don't even know about it, like you did. Yeah, and it's I feel that I myself, I'm still learning on a regular basis and still developing. So I don't have a strong urge to go out and say I got it all figured out. I'm learning from my clients all the different ways and unique ways people can navigate through tough times in life, and learning from my own life as well. And right now, I would say most of my energy is focused on my humanitarian work. I have a kind of a long-standing project for community development in Haiti.
Okay.
And it will be done someday. It's a project that should carry on without needing all my attention like it did in the beginning. And I have a sense that I'm learning a lot of important things about human suffering and reading people and learning what they need through nonverbal communication that transpires when I'm helping them. And so I think it all relates. Some people might look at it and say, why isn't this doctor who knows about the mind-body connection focusing 100% on that and doing this humanitarian work about farming, of all things? But for me, it's all connected, and I can see I'm learning things that will tie in and help me. And I do believe there will be a point in my life where I do this more with more of my time and maybe help larger audiences. And it'll, if that's meant to be, it'll happen when the time's right,
Absolutely. No, absolutely. And I think, like you said, like just by you having the website, like just the way I found you, I think,
yeah,
someone that's definitely looking for, some knowledge about it, or a light at the end of the tunnel. Like I told you, I was looking for just something to tell me the pain was going to go away eventually. No, and then even right now, you gave me a different perspective about it, because just like how you said, the amount of time you spent daily trying to figure it out is a lot more than the time I was giving to it. So even that, maybe I need to dedicate a lot more time to it to really get the results that I'm looking for. So that makes sense as well.
Yeah, just some alone time with yourself in a setting that makes you feel safe and comfortable, and there's something powerful doing breath work or meditation. I think that's one of like the kind of the foundational practices that was important for me.
Absolutely. No, and the same thing when I would go climb the mountains, by some miracle, I would have thought this was going to cause me more pain, and the pain would go away for a couple of days.
Yeah.
And then it'd come back, because I'd be on the way. I'd be telling myself, no, how am I even going to do this? Like, I could barely walk. How am I going to go climb the mountain? And I
Yeah.
would feel like something was telling me, go climb the mountain. Okay, fine. I'd go. Next thing you know, I get to the top, no pain. For
Yep.
3 days later, no pain. Then I'll start creeping back in. And so maybe I did need to just push myself, get out to nature, and just keep.
It's an important, is facing fears and doing the physical activity. And long before I knew of Dr. Sarno or had a conscious spiritual path, I had a similar experience when I was probably in my late 20s. I had severe back pain once that occurred while wheelbarrowing some heavy pieces of stone.
Oh, wow.
I felt like a pop, and then I was like, had so much pain that I had to like slowly get into my car, and I had to get in and out of seats real slow. And it was barely functioning in work. It happened like a week or two before the big backpacking trip that I take once a year.
Oh,
At this
wow.
point I was married, and it was like, this is we have grandparents going to watch our kids. My wife and I would go to some beautiful place in nature, and we'd spend like 5 days camping, and I had it all planned, and I was like, I'm going. I don't care how bad the back is. And I carry like 60 pounds of weight on my back. And guess what? I was fine. I got that pack on. I went up. Pain didn't there was some pain there, but it didn't stop me. And I went through that whole trip, and I came home, and I was feeling great for a few days. And then the pain started to come back again a little bit. And I was like, experiences like that, like I didn't even know about the mind body connection. I just knew I wanted to go out camping, and I wasn't going to let anything stop me. And it taught me that back pain wasn't entirely physical. Because if everybody says, oh, it's the weight on your spine is doing it, well, then why did I feel better when I was doing more demanding physical work? And little experiences like that help us to break up this sort of narrow way of seeing things that medicine teaches us.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. Yeah, I remember a story someone told me once about, I wish I could find the exact article, but it was something about that there was a woman that had cancer, and I think it was pretty, like one of the more, I don't know if severe is the right word,
Or advanced.
advanced. One of the more advanced stages. And I guess something happened. I don't know if she was in an accident and she got amnesia. And when she finally, or I don't know if she was in a coma or something. I think it was amnesia. And when she finally started remembering, they did tests, and the cancer was gone because she had forgot about it. So I was just mind blown. And I wish I could find but since someone told me that story, but I believe it because I've heard so many things at this point. But I love that story because of that.
It makes me think of a statement like, our problems need our engagement to stay alive. Like energy blockages need our energy, which we give away depending on where we point our attention.
Wow.
And so like when you start to disengage, and there's a way, I'm talking mentally, so you can like in a heart way, you can be connected and allow yourself to feel everything that's real, but mentally you're not giving the story any life. That's like unplugging from the problem, and eventually it dies from neglect. And it sounds like that woman's cancer died from neglect. She had this amnesia, her focus and her mental state shifted so much, there was nothing to give it what it needed.
Yeah, absolutely. And it just makes you think like what exactly these things are. And like you said, like maybe we're meant to just learn something from them and then let them pass on through or something. But absolutely.
Exactly.
Yeah. Is there any way, or do you want people to be able to contact you if they have any questions or
Yeah, of course. So my website is the best way, and there's like a contact form you can submit, and it ends up in my email box just like yours did. The website for folks is healthy-body-mind.com. So it's like the 3 words with hyphens in between them. And the homepage has like a painting of a farm field with a bunch of flowers. If you see that, you'll recognize that's mine, and it'll say something about Dr. Roger on there. And people are welcome to go through. There's some free resources I share, like books and different practices that were real helpful for me. And you can learn a lot just through reading and studying those things. And then there's an option to work with me as well.
Oh, okay. Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you. No, well, yeah, I don't want to take up any more of your time because I'm not sure how much time you have. So, I've loved this conversation. Thank you so much. Unless there's anything else you want to add that maybe I forgot to ask you, but other than that.
No, I think we covered a lot of good topics, and yeah, your pain is temporary. It's going to get better, and you'll be better from it. And I would start with The Way Out for the next book.
Okay.
And then see where life takes you from there.
Perfect. I'll order it today.
Awesome.
So thank you so much, Dr. Roger. It's been a pleasure and an honor. I really appreciate it. And yeah, definitely. We'll be in contact. Maybe you could come on at a later date in the future and, share some more interesting adventures with us.
Anytime.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Okay. Take care.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah, sometimes you just feeling it, you know what I'm saying? You just feeling it. And I want to feel this way forever.